It's becoming a bit of a year of firsts for the RPM TV long-term garage. We have our first Opel, a Mokka, recently joined the fleet, and now it's time for the debut appearance of a Volkswagen, and a bucky at that. For the next few months, we've got the use of an Amarok double cab. The 4x4 will no doubt be used first and foremost as a load carrier, but there should be more than a few opportunities to test out its rock clambering abilities as well. The Amarok is fairly well known and well liked by us here at RPM, but now we get the chance to sample what it's like as an everyday machine. Our test car's trendline spec is quite acceptable. It is the lower of the two spec options, so you do without things like Bluetooth and climate control. But its very VW design makes it easy to use, and for a bucky, it's focused more on luxury rather than utility. The optional leather seats are more suited to an office than a construction site, for example. It's not filled with loads of personality though. Volkswagen's monochromatic interior treatment is in full effect here, and although it's comfortable, it certainly isn't what you'd call lively. But then again, it is still a bucky, and that also means that in terms of spec, there's not a lot else to this interior than what you see here. In fact, it's a little less than you see here. That steering control for the phone is just for show. Space in the double cab is good, with the rear doors providing easy step-up access to the back seats. Ordinarily, we give our long-termers time to settle in, but the Amarok wasn't afforded that luxury. Delivery mileage on this car, 900 kilometers. That didn't stop us putting it straight into service by driving it from Joburg to Clarence to come film a classic rally. And it wasn't the easiest of starts. We headed out in a massive Joburg thunderstorm in the middle of Joburg traffic. And when you add to that the fact that you expect big 4x4s to be not that enjoyable on the open road, it handled surprisingly well. Once we were out of town and the cruise control, which is standard by the way, was set, cruising in the Amarok was almost as enjoyable as anything else, within reason. I say almost because although it's quite capable of taking on an open road trip, there are things which you have to get used to. Things like its size, and more specifically, its height and its higher center of gravity. 4x4s feel different to SUVs because there's less weight over the rear axle, and unless you're carrying a tub full of stuff, the rear can get a little bit light over rougher surfaces, which can be unnerving if you're not used to it. And then there's the 2-litre motor. Like I said, it hasn't got that much mileage on it, but it's also designed primarily to be a workhorse. And that simply means it's happier when it's being asked to provide plenty of low-down torque, which it is very good at. On the open road, the 103 kilowatt 340 Newton meter turbo does sometimes struggle to deliver definite punch when you want to overtake, for example. Things might change over time though, once we've managed to put some kilometers on it. Most of that will be done on tar, of course, but now that we've got one in our garage, we'll try find some more adventurous road trips for our Amarok. We have driven some 4x4 versions of this car in the past, although we are looking forward to putting it through some proper off-road conditions. With the low-range gear set and lockable diffs, the Amarok should be able to take on anything we're brave enough to throw at it. For less challenging terrain, the 4-motion all-wheel drive system splits the torque evenly between front and rear axles at the push of a button. The Amarok also features an off-road mode for the ABS. It also has quite an interesting styling element. And that's its ability to seemingly not age. The Amarok was first released in 2010, and it was the first bucky to use styling elements that weren't there just to make it look like a bucky, but rather to make it look good. And 5 years down the line, it still looks just as good. And I suppose that's what happens when you ask the designer of the R8, Walter De Silva, to design your mid-size pickup truck. The Amarok has lost none of its presence over the years and is still one of the more attractive options in its class. Being the only bakkie in our long-term garage, that car occupies a special place. And being a 4x4, it gives us an excuse to plan more adventurous road trips. Of course, we'll bring you those stories and regular updates on what life is like with the Volkswagen Amarok. The 2-litre turbo diesel is good for lots of low-down torque, but it can be less effective on the open road. The gearbox is a well-sorted 6-speed manual. The all-wheel drive system features low range, which adds to the Amarok's overall capability. It's still a good-looking and comfortable option, despite its fairly dull interior. Although it offers style and ability, it's the most expensive of its direct competition.